Hello, this is Antinatalism, and I had a video to create before I turned in for the night, and I hope edibles just don't kick in. Before I had an old piece of caramel from Colorado, and I took it about an hour ago, so bear with me if I fade out here. But this video is about, there was a forum today, and I was on this forum, and we were talking about, do you owe your parents anything? And somebody brought up the discussion, and I think the fellow may have believed that he owed his parents something. Maybe his parents, honored him or respected him or, gave him a good life. But in this video, I advocate disowning your parents. Your biological parents, that is. Your parents are not deserving, and most parents are not even deserving of being owed a dime from us. What they did by procreation was nothing less than disintegration and, what's the word? Destruction. What our parents did to us was to utterly cause destruction for our lives. And life is a death sentence. It's a death and a suffering sentence for us all. And we did not agree. We did not give our permission to be placed into existence. Anything that is non-consensual is criminal. Reproduction and consequently birth is criminal. Now, there may be a few exceptions to the rule for some of you. If your parent was sacrificing and they totally gave of themselves and they respected you and they honored you and they dedicated their lives to you, and if they had resources to pass on to you, and they never violated you, and they never passed on any genetic consequences, or they never created any confusion or doubt within you as to whether you were loved, or if your parents never emotionally abused you, then maybe you possibly could owe your parents something. But since none of those, all of those equations are never going to be met, then by all means, you have permission to disown your biological parents. You owe them nothing. You don't owe them courtesy, respect, financial assistance, love, or consideration. They knew they placed you into a harmful world where you were going to catch disease, be unfairly inflicted upon, where you will have wants and needs and desires. And many of those will be unmet, just like their needs and wants and desires were unmet. They passed on the lineage of suffering to you. They did not give you a better life. They extended suffering to yet another being. I have a few other notes I wrote here. So, being a parent was entirely a selfish act on their part. Reproducing, having sex is not altruistic. I can't even read my own writing, much less, my vision differential is complicating things. Now, if you want your parents in your life, it was because, and the only reason that you should want them in your life is because they provided for you everything that you could possibly need. Your financial, your emotional, your psychological, your physical, and futuristic needs. And I mean entirety. If those parents cannot or did not sacrifice and suffer and extend themselves for your existence, they have no value. Now, this is the majority of parents. Truthfully, it's all parents. Because nobody is going to guarantee you a happy, a successful, or financially fruitful life. And, I've had this feeling for a very, very, very long time. Like, probably when I was 14 or 15. And it was about the same time that I took on my first job. My first job was at Pizza Hut. And it was a pretty incredible experience. If my parents really cared, they would never have allowed me to work, period, much less work at Pizza Hut as a teenager. Alcohol, drugs, guns. It was really incredible back in 1979 or 1978. But anyway, I knew from, I think, my first job, which was I was 16, but I actually knew right after my parents' divorce that, I saw it coming, but I owed my parents nothing. I never felt, even as a child, that I owed them something. I felt like they owed me. And I saw discrepancies between other people, other children, other teenagers, just like me, who, had more, had access to more things. But, we were upper middle class, so it wasn't exactly like we didn't have financial security, because we did. But my parents, both parents, even when they were divorced and separated, both of them were extremely selfish. And they were looking out for their own needs and lifetime goals. And I remember when, don't know if I've ever said this either on YouTube, but when I was a senior in college, and I was a senior in high school. So I was going to enter college in the fall, and my dad had a new son with his new wife, my stepmom. And so he had this new baby, which took up resources and time, etc. And then he bought a new sports car. So he bought a new sports car on the summer or spring before I was to enter college. He did not support my interests and my future. So that was a red flag. That was the initial red flag. No, it wasn't the initial red flag. It was one of many red flags, but it was like the final red flag. Yeah, it was the final one. And, at that point, when my own dad, and he actually told me he loved me more than his two sons. So my own dad did not provide for my future. So he was divorced. He was disowned and divorced. And I just instantly took away and rejected him entirely. My mother was also very, very cheap and selfish. And I remember I was about 16 and I was at a visitation at her city in Texas after the divorce. My dad had custody because we lived in the same school district that we always were in. So it was just simple to just keep us in the same home. But so I remember one weekend I was at my mom's and my throat was very painful. And, I told her I was uncomfortable and I was sore throat. And, being a 16-year-old, you don't really know anything. And, it was up to the parents to medicate you and treat you medically and tuck you to a doctor. And so my mom balked at taking me to a doctor. Okay, I went to a doctor and they found out I had strep throat. And then it put me on antibiotics. But so she asked me, she said, Diane, didn't your dad know you were sick and take you to the doctor? And you know what? I didn't tell him I was sick because I wasn't sick when I was with him. But she was complaining ultimately about the price of a doctor visit and antibiotics. And I felt that. And I knew that. I knew that. I even had bad dreams about my mom. And one was about her killing me. I told her that too. I said, I had this dream that you wanted to kill me. And I told her that when she was in the garage and she was about to get in the car. And she knew I knew. I took away her youth. She was 20 when she got pregnant and 21 when she gave birth, but, she wanted a baby, but she didn't want what went along with taking care of a person. And she wanted someone like her. And she wanted someone to care and to love her. Doesn't work like that. Having a child means you devote your life to them. You sacrifice, you suffer, you're laid down your life for them. You give them everything. You support them. You provide for their future. Because without that, you are not a parent. So if any young people are watching my video, I encourage you to go no contact with your family, with your parents. Divorce them. Walk away from their lives and never speak to them. Change your phone number. Move out of state. That's what I did. Yeah, I moved 2,000 miles away. And it was great. Didn't look back. They gave me nothing, actually. They gave me nothing. And they did pass on some bad genes. And they knew if they had bad genes. Like my dad, he had a lot of like allergies and sinus infections. And he passed that on to my brother. And I became later allergic to things and, had sinus issues. And both my parents had, gastro problems. Let me think. My mom complained about a lot of, I don't know, gastric or acid reflux or something, but I never knew really what it was. But she always seemed to be going to the doctor for herself. That was another thing. She always treated her illnesses like they were important. But the one time I had strep throat and she had to, pay for a doctor visit and the pharmaceuticals, she wasn't happy. That's really, really selfish, I've done more for my animals. I am the best mom for all of my animals, and I've never left them without. They have always been sacrificed for. But I did not get that from my mother. Let's see here. So I guess, lastly, oh, don't do that. So, this is my disabled hen. She's got a name. Her name is Hannah. She's a sweetheart. But she's disabled, and she has no use of one of her legs. So she's a pretty remarkable hen. She's a very, very sweet chicken. I really, respect her a lot. So the last thing I'm going to say in closing is your parents were responsible for you. You are not responsible for them. And, if they get old and if they need to be in a nursing home or if they need any kind of caretaking, then, you can evaluate whether they took care of you when you needed help. Did they provide for your future? Did they take you to the doctor? And did they provide for you? And did they give unselfishly, or did they expect something in return? Because my parents were conditional and fear-based. So they created fear within us and a a couple of the things that, were eventually said were that, they put a roof over our heads. Well, if that's not some shit, because they owed us that. They owed us that and this and that and, food and clothing and education and books and toys and emotional support and communication and honor and respect. But we don't owe them shit. They are solely responsible for our well-being. We are not responsible for their well-being, and we will outlive them. So, in essence, we will have needs beyond which they are alive. So, they are useless. All parents were and are useless because they brought us into existence and because we didn't have a choice. Right, Hannah? Sweetie. Yeah. So, yeah, she was a rescue. So I've had her maybe, I don't know, year and a half, but she was not going to be salvaged if I didn't take her. And she's my very, very favorite. And she might sleep with me tonight, right? Right, sweetie? She has her own room, but we may sleep together. But she wanted to do this video with me. So I'm giving each and every one of you permission to disown, divorce, reject, and annihilate your biological parent. You owe them absolutely nothing. Not gifts, not communication, not help, support, or love. It is entirely up to you whether you want to do that. And if you felt like they suffered for you in kind and they gave you everything they possibly could, sparing diseases and genetic problems. So that's really nobody. It's so that's my late night video, and it's possible that my caramel edible is about to take effect. So, give me a kiss. Give me a kiss. She's warm. She's very warm. Underneath her wings, they're like so warm. Like cold weather does not bother a chicken. I mean, it can be probably 15 below. And they are so warm. Those feathers really keep the chickens warm. So I hope you all enjoyed my video. And as always, comment, share, subscribe. You could even hate. Go ahead. Hate. I like haters. Yeah. Haters are good fans. They treat me like celebrities. Everybody needs a few haters because, they keep things going. Ooh, she thinks I'm a worm. Disown your parents. You have my permission. You just made a noise. Do it again. Do it again. Come on, do it again.